Well, it's snowy and cold outside, but here in the shop, we've got the pellet stove all fired up, and it's nice and cozy in here. So that can only mean one thing. It's time for this year's winter shop project number one. So this year's project right here, an Owatonna Mustang skid steer, model 330. We're going to get this thing resurrected and working again. This particular machine used to belong to my father, who passed away about a year ago. This machine sat in the shed for, oh my gosh, 2, 3, 4 years. I don't know how long it sat in the shed unused. It quit running, wouldn't start, and so it has just been sitting around. I drug it out of the shed a while back and brought it in here to the shop, and we'll see if we can get this thing running again. This machine originally had an Onan opposed twin-cylinder air-cooled engine. The Onan engines, parts have been unavailable for those engines for a while, so any of these machines that are still around, it's not uncommon to see them repowered. This machine has been repowered with a V4 Wisconsin air-cooled engine. Judging by the cowl and the manifolds, I believe it's a model VE4 Wisconsin. I'll confirm that later. But the Wisconsin engine, of course, is bigger than the original engine and is really quite a tight fit in this machine. In fact, the distributor, I'll point it out, is down here underneath this cylinder bank and is extremely difficult to access with the machine, with the engine in the machine, which if everything is working right is fine, but if you're trying to get it started and it won't start and you're trying to diagnose something, it's can be quite a hassle. So we've got the Wisconsin engine here. We've got the engine coupler joining the engine with the hydrostatic pumps. We've got front and back hydrostatic pumps. These are actually just hydraulic pumps that power the hydraulic motors that power the right and left side wheels on this machine. There's a third hydraulic pump in front of this one. The third pump powers the boom and bucket on this machine. We've got the control arms here. The two hydrostatic pumps operate completely independently from each other. That's how come when you can see a skid steer with wheels on one side going forward, wheels on the other side going backwards, and it'll just turn around its own length of itself. So continuing on with the visual inspection of this machine, we've got some wiring here that's not very tidy. I will probably just tear this out and redo the whole thing. Doing the visual inspection, the one issue that I need to resolve, the important issue, is the engine to hydrostatic coupler, which is this thing right here. What it is, there's a sprocket here on the crankshaft of the engine, another sprocket right next to it that's attached to the input shaft on the hydrostatic motor, and they're connected with a double roller chain. If anyone's familiar with some of the older Oliver tractors, they use a very similar setup. You probably can't see it, but when I look at this, I see that the sprocket on the hydrostatic unit, the teeth are almost completely worn off it. If it hasn't already failed, it's very close to failing. So that's something, that's an issue that needs to be resolved right away before we can use the machine. Just another more inspection. I see the exhaust gaskets are blown out here on the exhaust manifold. Not a big deal. I see the cylinders. Someone has marked the cylinders by scratching on the cowling here. There's 2 and 4 here, 1 and 3 on the other side. The spark plug wires have also been marked by putting pieces of tape on them, and I also noticed that the spark plug wire marked number 3 is actually on the number 4 cylinder and vice versa, so I suspect that the firing order might be wrong on this machine. I can inspect that later. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use the engine hoist here, unbolt the engine, and take it out of the chassis. That way I'll be able to access the engine to hydrostatic coupler, do something with that. I can set the engine on the ground here, and I'll check the compression on all the cylinders, check the distributor, make sure the points are all good, get it all tuned up, and I can start this engine on the floor of the shop here, get it all tuned to perfection before I put it back in the machine. The coupler sprocket, I'm going to try and get a new one. I'm going to check in first off with my my friendly John Deere dealer. These machines, one thing that's some people might know, some might not. Before John Deere actually began building their own skid steers, they sourced some skid steers from OMC and sold them as John Deere's. So this Mustang 330 is in fact essentially the same machine as a John Deere Model 70 skid steer. So John Deere has a very robust part system. If there's a part that I need anywhere in the country, they can find it for me. So I'm going to try there first. If not, I suspect if I can't lay my hands on a new one, I suspect I might be able to take the old one to a machine shop, have them cut the old teeth off with a lathe, and perhaps weld a new one on there. So we'll see how that goes. So anyway, I'm going to start in on this project right here by pulling the engine out, and I will post more updates when I get something done. So very good.